Life is messy. It can be, really. And even though we try to live lives that are successful, lives that God would be pleased with, we messy. We messy. We could want to be the best husbands, but our eyes may wander. We want to love our kids, but our history, our past, not having a father figure, a male representative of love in our lives, or a man representing love or demonstrating love in our lives. We may not have experienced this, so we go into these relationships, these father-child relationships, this husband-wife relationships, flawed, faulty, not 100% whole for whatever the reason is. This is not easy. My wife and I, we went to Chicago in the beginning of June, and one of the main reasons why we went over there is because we love this ministry called NY. And it's an awesome place. We always watch it on YouTube. We love the pastor. And so that was like our big thing, right? It was kind of like going to Disney, right? We're going to Orlando, to go to Disney. No, for us, it's like we're going to Chicago for NY. And it was so dope to go there. And during the service, the pastor was preaching, Pastor Clank, and he was kind of talking about this same topic of relationships and being faulty, and using kind of like the phrase or the term, I'm only human, God is not done with me yet, right? He's still working on me. He's basically said, don't give me that, right? That was his quote, don't give me that. The reason why you're not where you need to be in these relationships is because you're not spending enough time with God, not hearing the voice with God, not spending enough time in worship. There is something to say to that. And I as I reflect on that thought, right, it makes me think that there's nothing wrong with, it is what it is, right? We are humans. We live in we live in a place that is consumed with sin. This place is cursed, and until Jesus comes again and revamps this whole place, right? Refurbishes it, right? Reconstructs it. Matter of fact, burn it down to the ground and start it all over again. And we will always have to deal with this messiness. But I do believe and I do agree that what Pastor Clank was sharing with is that a lot of the ways that we express these messy things in our lives are really cop-outs. Like we're just copping out. We stay in that, we end that sentence, that phrase, that cliche with a period. I'm only human. Or the Lord is still working on me. He not done with me yet. And usually it's a cop-out and not taking responsibility. And when I say we're not taking responsibility, I'm not owning to the fact that we're messy. That's, for me, is the easy part. We got from a place where we denied it, act like it didn't exist, to now being humble enough to be like, yo, I am messy. I'm not perfect. We're beyond that. Now it's like, okay, what we going to do from there? That's taking responsibility. Taking responsibility is not owning up to the things that you do, but going beyond that. What are you going to do now? Me saying I'm only human should not ever be a period, end with a period, but it should be a comma. Not only human. I am only human, but where do we go from there? And when you have a relationship with God where you worship Him, you're in His face, you're in His presence, He will continue to weed and shift. He will continue to uproot and take those things. He will put you in opportunities and situations to be able to be tested so that you can uproot and pull these things out so that you can be the best husband the best father, despite your circumstances, despite your flaws, despite where you came from in your background, despite those things that came into your life to cause you harm, those traumas, despite all of them, we can grow and have healthy relationships. We can. Don't use your humanity as a cop-out. Because we're not only just simple humans that have a flesh and a mind. We have a spirit. And I would say simply, what is it that's operating us? What is our operating system? You all have phones, and those of you who have iPhones, it gets updated every 5 minutes, right? You have software upgrades and updates. So what was the software inside of you that's operating your decision making? Is it your flesh? Is it your mind? Or is it the thing that connects you with a perfect, holy, sovereign God? Our spirit. And if we're not engaging with him on that level, then it makes sense. Yeah, you can say I'm only human, I am only physical, I'm only a mental. In that case, if you truly believe that, then yeah, there's a period there. But not for me, not for me, not for me. I am human. I have a mind, I have a flesh that wants to be gratified. I have desires that wants to be satisfied. I have itches that wants to be scratched. But to what end? To what end? And if it's just for that, that's a temporary decision that you're making. But our relationships, they're much more spiritual, especially those covenants of marriage and your children. These are lifelong relationships that a temporary itch satisfied should not take precedent over these things. They should not. So how do we determine? How do we get away from making decisions because of our flawedness? We have to tap into that perfect realm. Now, do we stand to be perfect? I would say no. We may still make faulty decisions, but it cannot end with a period. It must end with a comma. I am flawed, but I am growing. I am progressing. I want to make my relationships right. I want to make them healthy. And if I've done anything to harm them, to bruise them in any way, I will do what it takes to rehabilitate them. And ultimately, that cannot be done in our own strength. It cannot be done in our own power. It cannot be done in our own might, because if it was possible, we would have been successful at it, and we would not use the excuse, I'm only human. So we got to tap into something beyond us, and it can really only come through worship. That's my perspective. You can call it a worldview, but when I look around, man, I don't see nothing. I don't see nothing that's greater than tapping into the presence of God, the creator of the universe. Not the universe. Now I'm being a little petty. But the universe, the stars and the sky and the incense and all these physical things will not be where I find my destiny, the totality of who I am as a man. I will not find it in horoscopes. You can't tell me who I am and where I'm going from looking how the stars are moving, how the moon is shaped. You can't. I refuse to believe it, because I've tapped into something that is beyond anything physical. And the moon is beautiful, don't get me wrong. The stars at night, they shine, they're beautiful. You can see something glorious and majestic about them, but I believe they're only stardust. They're only evidence that there's someone beyond this world that we see with our eyes that is truly glorious. And we can tap into him, not it. It's not a vibe. It is not an energy. Now it can be, you can use those as analogies all you want. You can use it as an analogy all you want. But it is not a substance, it is not a force, it is a person. Now I know for the most part, I'm preaching to the choir, but maybe not, because even the choir needs to be sung to. Because we in the choir sometimes, we act like we don't have access to this place where we can tap into something way greater than our mind, way greater than what we feel. So I'm gonna be the best man that I can be, the best father that I can be. I'm gonna be the best husband, the best brother that I can be, the best co-worker, best employer that I can be. How can I do all of that? When I am flawed, when I have history. It can only be done through an intimate relationship, to a place of where I worship and I can hear the voice of God, and that he directs my every move, my every move. That even when I start to veer to the left, I can be reminded to submit my thoughts under the authority of Jesus Christ. Yeah, man.